Hi and welcome to the channel. I'm Marco from Hellforge Studio and today we're gonna talk about Warlust's newly released album Sol Invictus In Umbrae Satanae, and we're gonna take a look at their song Legio, Aeterna, Victrix. And now that I've butchered both of those titles, we can start the video. So I was in charge of production. We recorded drums, guitars, bass, vocals, everything at my studio. Except for this track, we have some guest vocals in here, which were recorded somewhere else. I want to start the video by showing you the track. Okay, I think that's enough for now. We're gonna have a look at several parts of the song anyways, so let's start with the drums. I will go through each individual instrument and highlight some of the things that I think are quite interesting for the production or unique or something different that we try to approach here. When you look at the kick drum, there's not so much different from a usual way of processing things, but I think it's still quite interesting to have a look at some things. Because at first glance we can see we have automation on the parallel compression bus, which is mostly on the same level for the kick. But when we zoom in here, we can have a look at the double kicks, for example. And we see each double or even triple kick in this example has a slight bump in the parallel compression. So the kick gets even more compressed, even heavier, and even more pronounced on these double kicks. Let's have a listen. Yeah, I think it helps greatly. Let's just delete it for a second and have a listen without the automation. Yeah, as you can hear, with the compression slightly boosted on these double kicks, we actually get a more distinct double kick feel. We get a tighter and more pronounced beater attack. So yeah, moving on. I do have some small tricks up my sleeve, like these two EQs, the API's 550As, and you can see they're both on a preset kind of thing. And the first one, which is activated on the double bass, as you can see here, here, and here, this just gives the kick drum only in the double bass parts more highs, less lows, so the build-up is not as big and not as boomy on the double bass parts, and a little bit louder just to compensate for the gain loss in low end. The plan here is to have a more pronounced kick, so it has better attack and gets better through the mix, but with the same consistent low end we had in the normal part. And for that I will just play the full mix and bypass the plugin. As you can hear, without the automation, the double bass gets almost completely lost in the mix, and you can't really hear it, you can't really distinguish the individual kicks, but you still have this low growl of the bass drum, like a rumble. And with the automation, you can clearly hear each separate kick drum. They are hitting very precisely, very tight, and with a very heavy thump, but without overbearing the mix. And then the other automation or preset EQ automation we have is a, something like a small, what do we call it? Yeah, just hiding some stuff. I will show you with this. I think this is a perfect example, even though we didn't have to hide it in this particular instance. I do like to hide the bass drum if it's played under the toms, for example, or under a snare roll, and sometimes it's not as tight. I'm looking for a good example where the kick, I think it's rather well played in this. Yeah, I think I won't find a good part where the bass drum actually sounds out of time with the toms. I will just show you what it does and why I do it. And now soloing the kick drum. As you can hear, it makes the kick drum very muffled, very, well, not quite low in volume, but low in perception. So you don't really notice it, and it loses all the click. So it doesn't compete with the tight attack on the snare drums, which is especially important if you have a very fast roll on the snare and the kick is swimming a little bit. It's sometimes a little bit early or too late, and then you would get a phlegm with the snare drum. Or on the other hand, maybe the kick is too clicky in these parts, and it takes away from the tight snare roll or from the excitement of the roll, or even in different parts where you have like a crescendo or decrescendo, where the kick would actually draw too much attention because it's too loud, too clicky. Yeah, so I like to hide it, especially underneath big tom rolls, like in this part. You can still feel it. You can still feel the pulse of the low end thumping in the fourth note, in the quarter notes, and that gives the drive for the song, for the drums. But still, the attention is on the toms, so they can shine. And then there's my usual EQ automation on the kick. Like, let's have a look here. Yeah, for big downbeats. We have more high-end, more lower mids, should be like, yeah, around 1K and 7K. So we have a tighter kick, like more pronounced, more precise, and more aggressive, especially. Then we have this more mellow part. It leads less aggressive kick. You will notice we still have the low mids intact, like the 1K. This gives a little bit of warmth and compensates for loss of attack, because I think we go here by 2 dB down, and usually we are up at 0. So if we look at the EQ, we even lose some of the pronounced kick on the downbeat. So yeah. I think it's great. It's for not so aggressive parts, for parts where we can breathe and have a little downtime. It's great to actually pull some elements back so the rest of the mix can breathe more. Let's move on to the snare. There are some interesting parts here as well, because for some part here we have EQ automation on the part where we have too much bleed on the natural snare mic. I will show you. Yeah, let's disengage the... This is just the gate. See in trigger, there's no instruments and 0 mix. And then this is a little trick just to cut out the high end when the snare is not playing. But you can hear there's quite a lot of bleed, especially in this former part with the right cymbal. I will engage both of these. And you can hear what it does. I will switch to a normal part. Oh, yeah, here is better because we have the same volume in snare hits. You have less high end here, so we actually don't have that much bleed, and also at the same time we pull up the trigger track so we can compensate for the loss of high end here. And then again, if we're at the normal parts, we have the snare back on its normal level, normal highs, and the trigger tracks back onto their normal volume. And then, of course, we do have some automation on the trigger tracks. Let's see. Yeah, most likely it's always some kind of roll. Let's have a listen in solo. Yeah, of course, we want more of the natural snare in these kind of rolls because we get the natural dynamics and we don't need the consistency of the samples. And we can also see on the snare bus, I did the same automation as on the samples. And then I did another volume automation in the volume trim to accentuate actually the natural dynamics. As you can see, we have this pronunciation on the very first note of the 16th beck, and then on the second, and then on the third, and then the fourth. So we actually kind of drew this here, as you can see, always going a little bit higher, going a little bit louder, and then this adds up to the volume automation in the first row, and we get this straight crescendo, getting louder and getting more exciting towards the actual kick-in of the beat. Yeah. For a moment, let's listen without any automation. Yeah, it even sounds fake, it does not have the natural dynamics, and we have too much sample, and it doesn't really sound exciting anymore. This is a great case or a great example where helping the natural dynamics and kind of over-exaggerating them makes them feel more natural to the listener in the end product. Oh yeah, there's also a little like a preset thing which only automates the volume. I think that happens during the blast beats. Let's have a see. Yeah, always the snare during blast beats is like 3 dB lower because it can get too loud, too overbearing, and kind of ruins the mix if the snare is too loud, and also sounds quite unnatural. Yeah, just makes things a little bit more natural, a little bit less upfront, and more true to the original dynamics. As you can see in the waveform, the blast beats are way lower than the actual beats. Right, let's get to the toms. We can see a great thing that I sometimes do if we have a varying amount of toms during the song. Some songs on an album have more toms, like I think on this record we have 5 toms. And we have quite consistent usage of all of them. But as you can see in the beginning, there's almost no tom 1 and 2, even tom 3, but lots of tom 4. We have only one time usage of tom 5 in this song, and then in the second half we almost have no tom 4. And as you can imagine, the toms do have their panning. We have a nice consistent separation of 100 to 33 on the left, 33 on the right, 100 on the right. So each tom has the same distance to each other, and it's not as static as you might think from these panning positions, because the toms are very pronounced on the overheads as well, and you get a little less wide stereo image from an overhead, because of course the toms are not standing in these extreme positions as they are panned on their close mics. But why I'm talking about this is you get sometimes the problem of not having all the toms available, but the drummer is doing still a very big fill, and you would lose a lot of, well, energy and excitement if you wouldn't change the panning of the close mics. So here's a great example. I changed the panning to make them sound more extreme, more wide. Yeah, it kind of feels like the toms are in the middle, except for the last one, which is the one-time usage of the tom 5, which is, of course, 100% to the right. But tom 2 and 3 are the 33 left, 33 right, and they kind of sound, yeah, mono, and in the middle. Let's listen to the automation now. Yeah, we have great separation. Now we have the tom 2 on the far left, tom 3 in the middle, and tom 5 on the far right. So we have this really big feeling, and this, what the drummer is playing is something, well, very exciting, really heavy on the toms, and you want this feeling that it's getting really aggressive. If you listen to the full part, this is kind of the climax of a song, and you want the toms to be really big and give this big impression of something very heavy and very extreme to start here. Yeah, as you can see, we have this very sparse arrangement here, just the lead guitar, and then the whole band kicks in with this massive tom part, sudden stop to full silence, and then the band kicks in back with the vocals. And yeah, as you can see, we did this several times throughout the song, if I remember correctly, several times on the full album, because the more toms you have, it's harder to incorporate them all, and that's completely fine, of course. But you don't want to lose anything by just having more toms, because if you can do a whole tom fill across the full kit, that sounds amazing, sounds great, everybody loves to hear it. But if you do like a smaller fill, which goes across like 2 or 3 toms as we had here, then it can start to sound narrow if you have two, well, natural panning positions or to a true position, and then you need to, well, spice things up, over-exaggerate a little bit, and make things sound bigger than they actually are. So I think we can move on to the several cymbal mics and overheads. Let's have a listen here, or have a look. We had one particular cymbal on this kit, the ping cymbal. Not sure if that's the correct word. I think so. I think the drummer told me. These sounds quite, well, like a piccolo ride cymbal. Very high, very crystal-like, and yeah, let's have a listen. Yeah, it's only this one time hit here. And you really want to have this pronounced in the mix. It needs to cut through the mix, and therefore we had a close mic on it. And as you can see here, I open it for the full ride and ping cymbal part, because I don't want to have this sudden impact of just a single hit of this thing, and have it sit in the mix and make it sound more natural and less like a closed mic, like an overdub. Yeah, I think you get the picture. And of course, it's always important to fade in and fade out these mics in a delicate way. When you start, it's easy to start like on a crash cymbal, because then you don't have this sudden movement in your overall cymbal mix. And yeah, this part repeats itself, and yeah, then it's cut out once the song starts to get faster and more busy. Then on the hi-hat, there's just a single hit, we don't have to look at it. And I think there on the right, yeah, there's something interesting. As you can see on these, yeah, on the same part as the ping cymbal, we have also quite interesting automation on the right cymbal. Yeah, as you can hear, it gets a lot louder. And that's not the only thing, because if you take a look here, we automate a limiter, a very hard limiter, the famous L1 limiter. And you can see we have up to like 20 dBs of gain reduction. And I think you can guess why I do it. That's because we want the sustain, we want the bell sound. We want the bell sound to really come through the mix, and also have it more even throughout the whole mix, so it sounds a little bit more realistic as we have it in the overheads. And also we want the eighth notes to come out a little bit more and have it more consistent. It's not happening again throughout the song, and I think there's not even more right cymbal, maybe at the end, but that looks like it's toms. Yeah. So it's important to have these closed mics always in the mix, but at a low volume where it just works, where it doesn't ruin your mix, but at the same time you don't suddenly change the stereo image or anything because you're introducing new mics at a certain part just because the right is needed here. So I really like to have them at low volume and just automate them up where I need them. And also with this kind of sustain automation, I like to do this only when I need it. You know, I could have, or of course, EQ'd and compressed the right cymbal to the liking of always being this present and always being this sustainy and bell pronounced. But then again, that would just mumble the mix, just overbear the cymbals and make the right cymbal sound less interesting. Okay, then of course we have the overheads. And the overheads, well, they need a little bit of tweaking. As you can see, there's happening quite a lot in these lower parts. As you can hear, I really want each cymbal to come out, each spot mic to be reinforced with the overheads and have this like very coherent drum image. Because sometimes the drummer hits too soft or too hard, or even the distance from each individual cymbal varies to the microphones. So you get a not so perfect picture of the overall dynamics of the cymbals played in the room. So this is just corrective automation. It gets really fast. You can just get in and have this like a, oh, let's go here. Yeah, something like this. And just copy it, and then let's say here's another symbol that I want to pronounce, and paste it. So it's quite fast to go through the song, read the waveform, and just paste in the accents where you need it. And then when you have something like this, you can go in and make something more interesting. And then I think the room sound is quite interesting because we have quite a lot of automation here. I usually put the rooms at a spot and then leave it there, except there's something special. And I think here are two parts that are quite interesting for room mics. Yeah, for once, this is a very, very big tom fill going for a whole measure throughout the full tom set. And you want some of that more natural room sound in there. At the end here, we have this small tom outro here. And again, overheads and room mics and close mics are automated to get heavier and heavier and more pronounced towards the end. And then we have the very strong last three tom strikes, and those are the end of the song. Again, underlining the natural dynamics of the song makes the song stronger. And I think that's the most interesting parts for the drums. I have some reverse drum effects here, and I want to show you how they help the song get more exciting. At first, we have this small break here. And we pronounce the snare getting back into the beat. That makes it just more heavy. And then I think this is kind of the same part. Yeah, I mean, not the same part, but the same style of effect. You know, we have this break, full stop, silence, and then in the middle of the silence, the swoosh starts to sound, and you get this more of a heavy impact and more exciting once the drums sit back in. And yeah, I think we do this again. Yeah, for the basic, for the big tom part. And as you can hear, in varying the size, the length of the swoosh, of this emerging sound, you can actually create different kind of effects. Sometimes if it's fast, you get a really strong impact. If it's slow, you get this more ominous and almost dangerous kind of feeling. And then here's also something interesting, a big drum. This is always like a copy of the snare. Yes, you can see this is the snare and made it more extreme. Let's look at the, yeah, lots of highs, 30 dB of 8K. And yeah, so this is really extreme with lots of reverb and then a limiter to get sustain, I guess. Yeah, you hear this really snappy kind of thing, makes the snare really aggressive and jump out at you. And let's have a look at this part without this. Already sounds great. Also there's reverb automation on the snare, for example. But now with this big drum, with the copy and the heavy EQ automation and limiting, sounds way more aggressive, sounds way more explosive, and makes the snare feel like it's bigger than it actually is. Moving on to the bass, there's not that much different stuff going on in the bass. As you can see, some volume automation, some EQ automation, some volume automation, but the really interesting stuff is there's some kind of a solo in here. And before I get into that, I want to tell you, I really often use chorus on the bass. But on this album, we don't have the chorus always on. As you can see, it's off for the most parts. And there are some parts, like a standing chord, or single note in this case, where we have chorus on. But in the normal parts, the bass is completely dry. This is because the mix is so busy with so much double bass, so many blast beats, and this really aggressive guitars, which we will get to later. And I didn't want to have the low end be bigger than it needs to be, and we don't make it worse. Yeah, this is the, well, I call it a post-verse here, but there's a small kind of bass solo thing going on. As you can see, I've automated the highs and mids, and the high mids even a little bit more articulate. And you can see the faders dancing a little bit even. And also there's the chorus active, really high in the mix, and some solo guitar reverb here as well. I will show you the bass first in solo and then in the mix. And yeah, this might feel random at first sight, but when you listen to it in the mix, you will notice that the bass always comes through in the same kind of way, and you get a really consistent feeling of the bass solo. It's always there. You can hear each individual note and what the bass player is doing here. Now without the automation here. As you can hear, the bass gets lost sometimes. You don't have the rhythmic feeling, the drive of the song gets lost because you don't have the pronounced notes in the bass lick that actually make up the groove. And that, even though the notes are all there, you kind of lose the feeling of the whole thing. And that's actually something you don't want, of course. I think we should move on to the guitars. And for the guitars, we have two interesting things to mention. On this album, sometimes we have quad tracks, which means like 4 tracks of guitar recordings, 4 individual performances. Sometimes we only have 2. That's on purpose, completely on purpose. Some songs are completely quad tracked, some songs are completely dual tracked. And as you can see here, it's mostly quad tracked, but then again, it's not. And this is because I really want to have this kind of macro dynamic in the song. As you heard earlier, as you can see or I will show you, the song starts very mellow, very dramatic. It's almost kind of doomy and gloomy. And I wanted to actually address this in the production, so we actually don't have the massive guitars in the beginning. We have more room, more space to breathe, more space for reverb and delay effects, more space for a lead guitar, for a vocal choir even, which we will get to later. And then, once the song fully kicks in, we'll have full quad tracks until the end of the song and have the very massive wall of guitars here. And I think that's one way to make your song more interesting without even having to do anything, you know, because the song is written with only 2 guitars, maybe some lead guitars and stuff like this, yeah. But then again, changing the dynamics inside these 2 tracks, or adding 2 more tracks which only play the same, so you get a bigger wall of sound. You can change the arrangement in parts, but not changing it actually, you know. You actually just double up on it and make it more thick and give it more texture. And then the second thing is, we had one of the guitars which I thought sounded quite good, No offense here, but for all this very busy chord work in black metal, you know, playing 16th notes on several strings on the guitar, you will always lose some detail. And this guitar had a very aggressive pickup in it. I think it was the Fishman Fluence pickup, which I personally really like for very aggressive stuff, because it has a very pronounced attack, a very distinct distortion type. But for this more intricate chord and arpeggio kind of stuff that we have in the black metal genre, and also a lot on this album in particular, it got way too overbearing. So I put in on the DI track, a simulation, which I first cut out all the low end, then a simple one-knob plugin, just some distortion, and then EQing just some low end back in. So we actually have a nice and clean, very low gain, as you can see, very low gain guitar sound, which gives clarity, presence, and helps the guitar cut through the mix without muddying it up. The most interesting part about this is we actually automated the gain knob on this thing here. And that's what I really love about these one-knob plugins. They sound good, and they are almost like mix ready, and you can't really fuck anything up because there are no buttons to press, and they have this very easy fit in the mix. And then you can automate the gain to adjust your guitar sound just as needed for each individual part. And as you can see, for the most part, we have very low gain. I bet if I play it to you, it will not even sound good. Oh, it sounds quite nice. Actually, you can tell that the pickups are very hot, because even with this low amount of gain, it's very high distortion. And I think you can see the problem that we have with this kind of pickup. And let's have a look where I actually turn up the gain to make it sound more heavy. Yeah, and you might wonder, well, this is playing the exact same thing. In this part we have full gain, and then we have low gain. And I will show you the full mix, and then I think you will hear why I made this decision. Yeah. If you didn't guess it, then here's the answer. In the solo part, where you only have this guitar and the vocal, I don't really want this very dynamic feel of the low gain sound. I want the full distortion and the really heavy sound, so it actually is strong enough to draw the attention of the listener. And of course, you can hear the normal guitar sound above it, you know, because it's free microphones. And then this is the second guitar sound just with the DI track. So let's have a listen to the guitar isolated. As you can hear, with less gain, it sounds way more settled in the full guitar mix. It sounds also very similar to the normal guitar sound. It has a different kind of distortion, and that's exactly what you wanted. So we can actually have a little bit more pronounced distortion and less of this indirect sound that we have in the guitar mics. Yeah, I think they actually complement each other very well and make do with the problem that I mentioned earlier. And as you can see, in some riffs, we even have very wild automation, and this is easy to show why we did this, because I will show it to you without the automation and then with, and you will hear that with the low gain, this riff doesn't sound good anymore. And now again, with automation, yeah, you have the full consistency of the playing style, but at the same time you get the full detail of the arpeggiating, and then smaller mistakes or minor things about the guitar playing get lost in the distortion. So you can have the best of both worlds, the distinguished and very clear low gain sound, and then the more intense, but also covering like small mistakes or inconsistencies in the playing, hiding effects of a high gain sound, and at the same time the aggression, which is also very prominent in this part. I hope this is easy to understand and actually to grasp the concept of having another sound from the same performance but with the eye track, and actually being able to adjust some things about it. In this particular song we actually don't have a lead guitar. We have a few more overdubs here, and I think they're not that interesting, but I want to show you when I record overdubs or for what purpose. And let's have a listen to the chorus. Yeah, they're very low in the mix, but still they give note definition. As you can tell, both of these overdubs don't really play what the other guitars play. As you can hear here, this guitar plays the melody, and this guitar also plays the melody, but also with the bass note in the chord. So you actually have this black metal feeling. And as you can hear, without or two overdubs, the melody gets kind of lost in the mix. I mean, it doesn't get lost, but the feeling of it gets lost. You know, you can hear the melody, every note is there, but you kind of lose the harmony of the two guitars because the mix is too busy and the guitar sound is too aggressive. You kind of need these overdub guitars just playing the important notes to actually get the harmony, to actually get the melody in your head, and also make you feel the emotion behind it. And that's also the reason why there's so much delay and reverb on these two tracks, because you get a more spacious feeling, a more overwhelming feeling, so you can actually dive into the emotion that is conveyed by the chorus. And yeah, I think this happens 2 times for the chorus, and then in the outro I think it's the same. That's also another easy way to just record a fast overdub and give more depth and more texture to your guitar tracks. And then before we get to the closing vocals, I have a few choirs in here, or I think this might be an organ sound. But yeah, let me show you why I did this. I think, the first choir is just doing the same notes for the vocal choir. And while we're at it, let's see why I added a choir to the already existing real vocal choir. And as you can already see, there's only 3 tracks. And even worse, there's only 1 track singing the basic melody. And then 2 tracks of harmonies. And, to get this really big choir sound, to get this really intimate feeling of, having a real choir, a big group of people singing something together, you of course need more voices. But again, as I told you in the beginning of the video, I didn't record the choir. These are the guest vocals, as well as the choir. And, we only got these 3 tracks, but we wanted to make them still work. So on the one hand, there's harmonies created with the Quadravox, which is a great plugin. So you get in this example, I made a lower octave to make it more thick, and then even added a 3rd in there, and I think even this is automated, so actually you always have the correct harmony in there. And yeah, this makes it more thick, but then again, if you listen to it, I think it sounds great, but it still lacks this bigness which you would get when having like a bunch of dudes singing together. And therefore, I just put in a synth choir as well. And as you can tell, it's not perfectly aligned with the vocal, and that's because the guitars are also mirroring this melody. I think it's this guitar track. Not this one. Not this one either. And now the choirs. And then I think it gets the bigness that we wanted. Let's start without the choir. Yeah, and I think this gives great bigness to the whole sound. Then again, the melody is repeated. And even though we don't have the choir singing, we have still the guitars in here and playing this melody and have a different vocal track on top of it. What this does is just reminding the listener of this melody and giving it more emphasis and making it not sound so small as it would with only the guitars playing it underneath. And also, as we don't have the choir anymore, but still have the same part playing, we don't want the listener to have this kind of feeling when the repetition plays that the repetition is weaker than the actual first time they heard it. So for me, it's always important to, if you repeat a certain part, it needs to be either the same, to have the same impact, or to be bigger or smaller or way different, so your mind can always discover new things. You can explore the song, explore some new dynamics. And in this case, we have new dynamics by the other vocal tracks, but kind of the same vibe from everything else. And so I added in the choir to keep the fundament or the fundamental instrumentation and arrangement the same. So it's actually reminiscent of the first time, and the listener can remember it and still discover the new part in the vocals. And then right after it, you have the Melody 1 Plus, which is like the same thing, but with a blast beat underneath, and way more busy, but without vocals. And without vocals, still having the melody in there and everything, the next part feels kind of empty. Let me show it to you. In order to change that, we actually put the choir in there, same thing as here, but an octave higher, and then also put in another organ sound. I think it's also an octave up. Yeah, make things thicker, heavier, but at the same time more dramatic because of the octave up. You know, it will sound still the same, has the same feeling, but with more energy and this, yeah, more dramatic impact than it had before. So let's have a listen. I think that makes sense. Okay, we already covered some of the guest vocals with the choir here. I think I won't really come back to the lead vocal of the guest part, but maybe, let's see. So when we take a look at the vocal arrangement or the vocal automation, you can see there's not that much going on. Of course, a few echoes, few delay throws, some reverb tails getting automated, and of course lots of volume changes to accommodate the dynamics of the singer. But if you take a look at the tracks, we have 4 vocal tracks, which for like this death thrash black metal kind of thing is not that common. You know, most of the time you have the band and the singer, and that's it. But especially for a song like this, which is way more dramatic and has this really big macro dynamic built up throughout the whole song, I wanted to actually mirror the dynamics of the song and the arrangement, also in the vocal arrangement and the vocal overdubs. And as you can see, we have also this ups and downs, of course. We have more tracks than with even more tracks, then you have less tracks, more tracks, and it's like a wave. Ups and downs, and a more dense mix sometimes, then it gets more open, less overdubs, and the vocals can breathe a little bit more. And then again, for a heavier part, or for the climax in the chorus, for example, you get more overdubs again. And this is to mirror the actual dynamics of the song. So let's see. Yeah, for example, we already listened to the melody part here, and we have this like this repeating vocal that's always saying the title of a song, and then underneath we have doubles to put emphasis on the vocal or on the lyric, but it's actually the important part, like the Victrix here, the victory. To make it even more outstanding, we also recorded gang shouts only on the Victrix. And as you could hear, we have different texture. Gang shouts are a little bit higher, a little bit more like a call. And also it's recorded by, I think, 4 or 5 people. And then we have the doubles, which is the singer himself. Once like the same kind of voice. And then twice in a different kind of voice. So we actually get some texture, some variation in tone. And this makes it more bigger and again underlines the whole choir part and the whole dynamic of having more people in the room. Then when we get to the busy part of the song, as you remember, we have this more doomy and gloomy part, the first half of the song, and then we get into the blast beat part of the song, and there we have lots of vocals. And still we want to make it interesting. First of all, the writing of the vocals, props to the band of course, is already pretty interesting because you have this break where we have only the guitar, I showed it you before, and the vocals already start in this part. You get this expectation right before the verse starts, even though you wouldn't normally expect it, right? At this break part, you would expect that the drums set in and then the vocals set in and everything's normal. But here we start with the vocal and already subvert the expectation. Yeah, as you can see, like the punchline of the verse is doubled and then put with an echo in stereo, so you actually have this more impact on the verse or on this phrase, so the listener actually knows this is an important phrase. And I mean, they know it from reading the lyrics, of course, but also they need to feel it by listening to them, by hearing them. And then for the chorus, there's a different approach. I will play the full chorus to you. Yeah, this is a different approach on the verse. We don't actually put emphasis on certain lyrics, or maybe at the end, of course, but we strip it down. Why is that? Because I wanted to put emphasis on the melody, on the lead guitar, because we actually made we put in so much work to actually make you feel the melody, get a grasp of the emotion of the chorus, that I didn't want to draw the attention to the vocal. I mean, this sounds kind of counterintuitive, but if you listen to it, I think it works great, because you have this very naked vocal in the middle and the attention around it with the guitars, and you actually can drown into the emotion or dive into the emotion. And then when we have the more important lyrical parts, we have the guest singer drop in the lead and actually do this kind of push-pull thing with the lead vocal. And you have the stacking of doubles in the guests and make this kind of staircase, you know? We have the naked lead vocal first, single track, 2 tracks in stereo, and then 3 tracks for the last phrase. And the delay throw at the end. But yeah, as you can see, or I hope you can see or hear even and feel it, we have the naked vocal just as the rest of the chorus. Same feeling, same vibe, nothing changes. The listener is lulled by the melody. And then we have this big surprise by the guest singer being more pronounced, more powerful, and more upfront than the original voice, drawing attention to it. And then, as you expect, it will go back to the normal lead singer. We actually mirror the stereo tracking of the guest singer. And even on the last phrase, we put in a third double. I wanted to go back to the verse, but the guest singer kind of strikes back in there, and he made a full version of the verse himself. But I liked our version from our singer, from the lead singer, better. But I still wanted to keep something in there, so I figured, because we only have this very short melody part in between the first chorus and the second verse, that we don't lose all the excitement from the big ending of the chorus and still keep the energy. So we still have 3 tracks at the beginning of the verse, then only 2 tracks, and then a single track for the end of the verse. And I think you already know why I did this, because I wanted to have this, again, dynamic feel of the whole song exploding into the chorus, but keeping the momentum, because it's a different verse afterwards, and until we have the small bass break, which is way more mellow and soft. You know, we did in the automation for the bass drum. The bass drum is less hard kicking in this bass solo part. The bass is more prominent and gives the drive for the song. The guitars are more in the background. There's no vocals, and there's so much space to breathe. And if there was a sparse second verse right in front of this very open space, then the open space wouldn't feel as open, because there would always already be some open space in the verse. But like this, we have the momentum from the chorus carry over into the verse, and then slowly diving out of the verse into the mellow part after the verse. So in reality, this is like the post-chorus. So the verse kind of is stuck to the first chorus. And then again, we get into the second chorus, same build up here, and then a even more naked end. Again, this is to stumble the listener, to subvert the expectation of the listener. At first, we had this big build up, getting bigger, bigger, bigger. 3 tracks in the end. Again, second chorus, we're getting bigger with the guest singer. And then we don't get even bigger for the triple tracks as we had it in the first chorus, but we go small into the bridge. No, this short burst of silence really makes the impact of the part afterwards way heavier. And if you had like 3 tracks here, I mean, the silent would have still worked and made it like a stump. But again, if you have too many tracks at the same time, the break could easily be overbeared. You know, like some delay would be ringing out or some reverb would be heard, and the break wouldn't be as extreme. And with this, we have a almost complete silence, only with swoosh, and just right on the downbeat with the blast beat, and having full impact here. And then I think I will spare you the rest of the song because it's just another chorus and then the outro with doubles, which again follows the concept of getting the chorus really stripped down version, making it big at the end, and then keeping the momentum up until the end. So yeah, I think the vocals are really great, just underlining the whole thing, the whole concept of the overall song, you know, starting slow, starting heavy and doomy, and then getting bigger and bigger and bigger, having the break with the blast beats, and then having this wavy feel, this very aggressive, you know, very exciting, and yeah, very exciting is the perfect word because it really takes you in the whole song and takes you on the ride. Heavy verses, strong choruses, very, very big at the end, going down in this small bass solo kind of thing, the mellow part, you know, again, this waving feel, the waving sensation is in the full song, the full arrangement has this, and with the lead vocal, we want to underline this. We want to stress out the qualities of the songwriting, of the arrangement, make the full song, yeah, act as one force. Hope that makes sense. Yeah, and that's it. That was the video. So I think the whole album is really, really great. It turned out good. And we had lots of fun in the studio. All these kind of different tracks with different influences from death metal, thrash metal, black metal. Even though the band is more rooted in the black metal, we still have many different influences here. And the full album has this very dynamic feel to it. So it was lots of fun to play with the dynamics of the songs, of the arrangement, of the songwriting, and make the production underline the songwriting. This is something that I always try to do. You know, I want to find like the concept of the songs and help the artist realize how the concept could be translated to the listener, without loss, of course. And ideally, getting even better and making the excitement for a listener better and making the translation of the emotion from the songwriter to the listener more easily to understand and more easily to experience them through the music. And that's it for the video. I hope you enjoyed it and thank you for watching.